Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to Kimmel Bay's vlog series. And in this series, we're looking at the parables of Jesus. And in this episode, shall I say, we're looking at the parable of the rich fool. And this can be found in Luke chapter 12, verses 13 to 21. And I think I'll start with reading that to you. Then someone called from the crowd, "Teacher, please tell my brother to divide our father's estate with me." Jesus replied, "Friend, who made me a judge over you to decide such things as that?" Then he said, "Beware, guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own." Then he told them a story. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. He said to himself, "What should I do? I have no room for all my crops." Then he said, "I know what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll have room enough to store all my wheat and other goods. And I'll sit back and say to myself, 'Friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'You fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything you have worked for?' Yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God." So this was from the NLT. Slightly different in other translations. I've watched quite a few parables, or listened to, sermons, and a few people pointed out this that I hadn't noticed before. So when you're looking at the Bible, the parable of the rich fool is a title, but in Luke it goes 12, then 13, 14, but they just put the title in. So when you look what Luke 12:12 says, Jesus is talking about something totally different. And he finishes, with, "For the Holy Spirit will teach you at that time what needs to be said," talking about trials that are coming. Then someone from the crowd shouts out, totally unrelated, "Teacher, please tell my brother to divide our father's estate with me." It's totally out of context of what Jesus is saying. And, that's just how impetuous this person seems to be. And it's all, they're so irate about the situation they're in. And, Jesus, he'll sort it out type attitude. So then Jesus replies with, "Friend, who'd made me judge over you to decide such things as this?" So Jesus, I think in this, and I think I've heard it in other people saying it, is Jesus is saying, how am I to decide about worldly things, earthly possessions? I'm not here to deal with that. Then he goes on to say, he'd seen right through this gentleman, and he said, "Beware, guard against every kind of greed." So, he's instantly seen that this man is greedy to want part of his father's estate. Maybe he's entitled to it, but that's not really the point. The greed is that he's looked beyond whatever, that's all good, Jesus, but what about my inheritance? That's what I'm here for you to come and decide, because my brother will listen to you. That's the type of attitude he's got, because he wants part of his father's estate. And Jesus isn't here to think of worldly estates, he's thinking of heavenly estates. So life is not measured by how much you own. And what a statement that is this day and age, which is so countercultural. I remember when I was growing up, there was a company called No Fear, and one of their slogans were on a t-shirt was "He who dies with the most toys wins." And it seems to be a Western thing, the Western way, or the American dream, let's say, the capitalist way. And as much as we might try and push against it in certain ways, it's almost inescapable for us this day, you know, just the equipment I've got here, just the camera, my phone obviously, but all these things would not be possible for me to own or purchase without capitalism. So the constant drive for things to increase and the growth of everything, and the cost of manufacturing, mass production, all those things. But so Jesus isn't there to talk about those things. So Jesus then goes on to say, to speak about the parable. I like the way it starts with, a man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. And so this man is a good businessman, and you know, he's you know, maybe a good farmer, but the earth that it's growing has come from God, and so everything that he gets has ultimately come from God. And we might be slightly detached from that this day and age, with agriculture being quite far removed from us. We've farmed out agriculture, excuse the pun, but you know, that's done by someone else, and we're so detached from it this day and age that we don't kind of see the link as much. So the parable could be lost on us slightly. So I was starting to think what the fertile farm might be for us or for me, and it was probably something more like my time, or where my money. So you know, where I might invest. I don't have many investments, but you know, if I the money I have in a bank is a lazy investment, then that bank might make lots of money with that money and give me dividends or something like that. So I get a bit of a windfall, let's say, a big windfall in this situation, and then I get a big windfall for some reason, and then I say to myself, well, I've bought all these possessions, I need a bigger house now to store all my possessions, and you know, and I've got enough wealth, I don't need to share it with anyone else, because you know, there might be hard times to come, so it's better for me to store that wealth and, you know, sit back and take it easy and eat, drink and be merry, as the parable says, and that's, you know, greed. And so while I was researching this, Alistair Begg is a preacher I like to listen to, and there's lots of other sermons that but I needed to point him out. It's well worth listening to some of his things, and I'd encourage you to do that. But one of his things was, this man didn't look beyond. So in the words of Alistair Begg, he never saw beyond himself, and he never looked beyond this world. So that sums it up, that he lived for now and he lived for himself, and it shows a lack of trust for God, that, you know, God provided him with all that wealth to start with. Who's to say that God's not going to provide that wealth for him in the future? But you know, then it's like God's rebuke that, but God says to him, "You fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything you've worked for?" So it's like, then what? So once you've done all these things, then what? Then what happens to your wealth? And it kind of goes back to, so who's everything you've worked for? Right back to the start, where there's two guys are talking about sharing and dividing their estate, which is again inheritance. So who will get that inheritance? And then it's kind of gone in a loop again. It says, yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not to have a rich relationship with God. And you know, it's that trust of I need to hoard that wealth. I can't share it out to show God's love. I need to keep it for myself because it's what I deserve. I've done well. And that's the culture that we live in today. I might have paid off the mortgage. We've got a nice car. We've worked hard. We've invested. We've sowed. And that money came in. You know, the growth has been there. And we might be good business people, and we might have control over our finances and how much money we make. but we haven't got control over the length of our days. And that, thinking of Psalm 39, and I've found a version which is paraphrased, sort of poem-esque, this version. Lord, let me know the end and fate, how long I have to live. To you my mortal days abate, no matter how I strive. For humankind is mist and smoke, we walk about in gloom. We toil and work, not knowing who will place us in the tomb. Why do I wait? What is my hope? My Lord, you are my goal. O make me not a laughing stock, from sin release my soul. For I have bound and shut my mouth, O take your plague away, your anger and contentious hand, I am undone today. So Psalm 39, another version is teach me to number my days, and that's when I came to faith. That is part of the big experience for me, was knowing that things aren't going to last forever on earth, and we live as if we're immortal, and this psalm is just an evidence of that we aren't, and we need to keep that in mind, that the eternal part of what we need to be thinking of. So it goes back to a fool. So this man was a fool, and the opposite of being a fool is being wise. And so in the Bible it says the basis of wisdom is the fear of God. And so the opposite of this could obviously be a lack of fear or reverential fear of God. So being so self-reliant and self-dependent, that would be foolish. And unfortunately, our culture is based on that. It wants everyone to be self-reliant, and everyone is self-made, and so this story is a very prominent story that needs to be told in this culture, and we need to live it out as well. And it spoke to me very deeply this time, and thanks for listening, and have a great day, everyone. God bless you. Amen.